Well, howdy, and welcome back once again to the Withlacoochee River Railroad and Monday Night Madness. Well, as you can see, I've got the building. I took it out and I spray painted it, primer gray. Oh, looks like I made a little bit of a mess right here. That came off. Alrighty. Anyway, the building is basically kind of ready to be get the brick accented on it. And yeah, the gray here is a little bit dark, but that's not going to much matter. It's still gonna basically show the whatchamacallit, the molded in mortar lines, of course, in this episode. And in the next episode, we'll come back in and we'll do all of the trim work. It's not that difficult to do, but why don't you follow me through the intro and we'll get right to it when we get back. Okay, and we're back, and you probably noticed let's see, I've got the building sitting right here. Yep, right there. And what we're going to do with it, and I do my brickwork a little bit different than I used to. Used to be I would just paint the building the brick color I wanted to use, like boxcar red or caboose red or whatever. But I learned different ways of doing it, and this is why you should watch other people, the way they do things. And what I got here, these are what's called cosmetic sponges. You can pick them up at any Walmart or in a drugstore or whatever. These are made for, taking makeup off. When usually women, I know these days that doesn't seem to much matter, but that's what it's made for. But it also, when used properly in the form of model railroading, you can certainly make your bricks pop out, and it goes a lot quicker than anybody thinks. And it's really no slower than taking and trying to, let's see, some people would use like a spackling paste to put their mortar lines in after they painted the brick color on, either airbrushed it or brush painted or whatever. I like to use spray paint when it comes to the primers. I like using gray primer. A white primer would work. And yeah, if you could do it a little lighter, and I could come back in and brush in a lighter coat of a lighter color to make because you can have, basically, you look around the world and in cities, brick, the mortar color was usually a kind of a neutral gray like this is. This is a darker neutral gray. This is probably automotive primer I picked up somewhere. I don't know. It was in a Rust-Oleum can. So what I do is I get my brick colors together. You can use barn red. Now, the way I'm going to set this up, I'm going to use basically one color on the front here, on the bricks on the front, and one color on this side, because this side would be maybe a street side, or there's an alley side to the side of the buildings there, that sort of thing. But the back and this blank side are going to get variations, because you see, they want the best curb appeal, and any business owner building their own building back then is going to want curb appeal. They want the front of the store to be attractive, and possibly anywhere where somebody might actually see the store. But they would go cheaper on the sides. You know, that's a process that hasn't changed in a long time. So I've got this barn red here, which is going to work for what I want it to do. Let me make sure I've got enough paint there. Alrighty. And then we will come in. Let's see, you got to have rags around, because you see the way you're going to have to do it on, you're going to have to dap it on, but you don't want to just pull it out of the paint and dap it on. You understand what I'm saying? You want to, because you still want the mortar lines to show through. You just want to, basically, it's a type of dry brushing, but you're not actually using a brush. So you want to make sure you got rags around, you know, like this, that you can dab the thing on to just get, you know, like you would with dry brushing. You would use a rag or a paper towel or something like that to get the brush almost dry. And now this is going to absorb a lot of that paint, but you still want to get the really heavy stuff off. And then you come in and just lightly and you may not be able to see it in this light too well. Now, one thing you don't do is paint your trim first. Don't paint the trim first. Because I can assure you, yeah, it's coming out just fine. If you paint the trim first, then you're going to end up repainting the trim. And when I'm talking about the trim, I'm talking about these window mullions and these and all of this up front, all the design stuff that goes, oops, sorry, all of the stuff that goes into the building. And I'll take a look at the screen here in a moment and see how well that's showing up. You want to go lightly as you can. You still got to kind of press it in a little bit, but you don't want to press it in so hard that you end up squeezing a bunch of paint on, and then all of a sudden the mortar lines you were trying to save are no longer there. And you got to go over it a couple of times to see to it that you know it makes it a little easier even to go between these things if you don't have to worry about repainting them later because you foolishly painted them ahead of time. Don't go and do that. And it's okay if you do cover up some of the mortar lines, because, you know, as these buildings age, some of that mortar falls out, and all you would see is the red brick or the whatever color brick it is. but we also know what we see when we see it, right? As you can see how that works with a cosmetic sponge. They're soft, they're you know, and they really work pretty well. The way I learned this trick was years ago. Model Railroader had a feature on a woman who had a model railroad. So it's probably, I think it was back in the late 80s, could have been in sometime in the 90s. And she loves nothing more than to build a craftsman style kit. And this is the trick she talked about. And she said this is how she gets her brick to look more realistic. And so I tried it. I said, darn, that actually works pretty good. And I've kind of been doing it that way ever since. Now this is part 2 of this building. Last week we got the walls up. Now I didn't think you needed to see me spray the primer on because, well, if you can't spray primer on, then yeah, what kind of a modeler are you, right? All right, let's see there, yeah. And basically you work your way around the windows, of course. You try to keep the paint off of them because you don't want a buildup of paint on those things because you're going to end up going over it later anyway. Okay, I've got the brickwork done on the very front of the building. And it's already beginning to look a little better, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay, now we're going to go to the, and as you can see, that didn't take as long as you thought it was going to take. Yeah, you could slather it on with a brush right real quick. I know. All righty. Let's see, that's, yeah. Okay. So when I painted on the primer, the base coat, yeah, I did it the other day, and it's had a few days to actually dry out, even though the basic weather hasn't really dried out any. You want to try to get as close to these edges as possible. And yeah, you're probably going to get paint all over that. That's okay. This is also a brick color. And one thing you're going to constantly be doing is dabbing back over where you've already been, because you're going to see some of those splotches kind of stick out like a sore thumb. You just kind of get most of that taken care of. Well, it was raining a little bit ago. We got the humidity up there now. Yeah, the sun's out. That explains it. Yeah, that's got to feel pretty bad outside. I'm glad I'm not out there trying to mow the lawn. That would just kill me today. Okay, now here we're gonna have to do the lower portion of the building right there. All righty. Again, this is a part of the building that might have some curb appeal. So as a result of that, the brick is going to be basically a uniform color. It doesn't have to be, and in a lot of instances it isn't. You can also see that once you load your sponge properly, it'll go a good long ways before you absolutely have to load it again. And the next thing you know, you'll have one side of your building done. Again, you can see this doesn't take any longer. In fact, it takes a much shorter amount of time to do it this way than it would take if you were actually trying to use paste or DAP or anything like that to bring out the mortar lines. And so now we have another side of the building pretty much done up and colored up. Like I said, you keep going back over again and dab it in, and you can see it actually quickly fills in spots that you thought you had missed. And now you can begin to see that it's already, the building is already looking 1,000% better. Now, what I'm going to do, since we're going to the back wall now, is I'm going to turn the building again. And yes, we've got brick. Now it's the same size brick. That's not what's at issue here. But let's see here. We've got flesh. No. All right, we got brown. It is brown. Yeah, that's nutmeg brown there. You're going to want to come in and have a little of that in there. We don't have to have a whole lot. I'm looking more for a tan color now. I got some here. Yeah, goose feather. Let's see if there's a... Ooh. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's been sitting a while. All righty. Yeah. Now I'm going to take some of that nutmeg brown and kind of add to that just a hair and mix it in, and we'll have basically a custom mix color there. All right. That's going to make it a little creamier and dreamier. I'm going to take a backside of a or a paintbrush here and kind of get that mixed. And we don't need more than about 2 or 3 colors here to kind of set this out. So alrighty. Now we're going to come in with our barn red. And we're just going to splotch it in. Kind of all over the place a little bit. See, you don't have to be as neat with it now. Now, the barn red is going to be the predominant color here. Alrighty. Alrighty, now let's come in with some nutmeg brown. It also works fine as a brick color. Like I said before, what happens here is when they build the sides that aren't going to necessarily be seen from the street, and you just kind of want to mix it in. You're not going to hurt anything if you touch some of the red with the brown. And then come in with this. That might look like crap at the moment, but I can promise you this, it's going to look a little better here in a little bit. And the reason you're doing this, of course, is to get it to, now you come back in with the brown. And you see you start covering some of that up, and it doesn't look so much like crap anymore, does it? So you'll notice that you have varying colors of brick on the back and side and some side walls and stuff like that. You can also do whole solid colors of what we like to call the cheaper brick. Doing this on the sides and the back of the building. And we're on the final side of the building here. Okay, again, let's get a little bit of nutmeg brown in here. We don't really even need to this is like just dabbing ink on here to make it work right. I once colored an HO scale, one of those practice kits from DPM. I once colored that, had it painted gray just like this, and I colored the brick with eye makeup. And it turned out to be really nice. So, you know, there's a lot of ways of doing this. Alrighty. And as you can see, we basically got the basic brick color all the way around on our building. And it took, well, close to a half hour to get it. And we're not gonna worry about, because I'm gonna let that paint dry, especially since it's raining outside a little bit off and on. That means there's a lot of humidity in the air, so best thing we can do here is just kind of let that humidity dry out a little bit that's on the paint. This way we're not handling the building too much or anything and ending up, you know, taking the paint we just laid on it off of it. It'll dry and it'll work just fine. As you can see, I'm also painting this structure with with the you know, the craft paints like that, you know, what you get at Walmart or Hobby Lobby and places of that nature. That's really the best way to do it. It's one of the best ways of doing it. And as you can see, as it's been painted now, and I've gotten all the colors in that I want to get into it, the building is nice and subtly red. We're going to go in and get the trim in the next part of this build, and as we do that, I may go ahead and put the weathering in at the same time. Again, it's going to depend on the weather. If we're getting a lot of, if we're still getting some rain and stuff like that, then no, I probably won't. Now, alrighty. Alright, now you may be wondering why I haven't been putting out a Withlacoochee River report every few days. Well, there's really nothing to report. So that's one of the reasons why. That's probably the only reason why. There's really nothing new to report other than what I'm doing with that structure at the moment. I did have 1 day a week at work this week. Actually got a whole 8 hours instead of 5. Granted, it was only at 14 bucks an hour, but hey, what can I say? I'm hoping I'm going to get, we do have a train show next week, next Saturday at Dana's. I don't know if we're actually going to try to sell it that one or not. We might. And if we do, then I will take and, oh great, I just noticed something had fallen. Anyway, if I do, then of course I'll let you know about it. But I also do a full Withlacoochee River report on that one. Today is Saturday the 4th, so of October. Yes, we're still in the throes of hurricane season, so hey, what can you say? So anyway, the building is looking really good. We're going to come in and do the trim work in the next episode. It might be a couple of days from now. It might be next week. I couldn't tell you for sure. It depends on whether I have work this week or not. Gosh, I hope so. I know the minimum wage here in Florida just went up to $14 an hour. So, and you know, I feel for you guys where you're still having to depend on that federal minimum wage. But then we're not getting any work either. So, you know, especially the way things are happening on the housing front, you know, it's almost like a miniature housing bubble has happened again, and houses just aren't selling. Several of the companies around here are stuck with a bunch of brand new homes on their hands that they can't move. Well, you know, people don't have the money to buy them, just like they don't have the money to buy a new car. So, yep. Anyway, till next time. Might as well run a train for you, because I haven't done a Withlacoochee River report. So, running another Alco. Doesn't sound like one though, does it? Throwing some sparks there. I guess I need to clean my track. Till next time, happy railroading.